Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting for Tuesday, August the 2nd. All members are present. First item then is the approval of the July 5th, 2022 minutes. I would entertain a motion. Member Klein, second. Member Bell. Any questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Great. Any requests for appearances by members or employees? No. Thank you very much. So we'll go on to 5A, 1A, Jerry, the request approval of a resolution for the July. Did you want to do bills? Oh, I guess we were to do bills. I skipped that, didn't I? Sorry about that. I'm glad you're there to keep me going. Yep. So we received bills. You should have got them in your email, both from the land, building and zoning, and also from transportation. I would entertain a motion to pay those bills. Member Friedrich, motion. Second, Member Thompson. Any questions? I have a couple. First one is for transportation. Looks like it's on page 5 of 10. We have Davis Welding and Manufacturing under a capitalized asset. Did we buy a welder or some steel or something?
Those are cylinders for our new tandem trucks for the snowplow hitches. Each truck has 3 cylinders on them, okay. And so that's buying those for the new trucks.
Okay, it kind of concerned me because I felt if it was a repair or something, it wouldn't be under assets, but that's okay.
Yeah, great. Some of the accessories or some of the other additional items that go for the new trucks that aren't included in the bid, we add to the capital assets.
Okay.
Since it's a new item.
And then I have one in the building zoning, and I think I know what it is, but regional planning, the $40,500. That's just our payment to them.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's part of the contract that this body recommended in the June meeting.
That's what I thought. Okay. Any other questions? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're ready for 5A, 1A, request approval of a resolution for the July 19, 2022 construction letting. Who would like to make that motion? Member Thompson, second Member Klein. Okay, Jerry?
So these are 2 projects that have scour issues. I think we talked about these, and I've showed pictures of them before, but these projects will put riprap around the abutments and the piers all the way through the structure, and they'll go like 10 feet around. And so we had 2 contractors get one of these each. Annie Finch out of Peoria was the one in Martin Township, and the Mount Hope Township was CSD Environmental Services out of Springfield. And so they came in a little bit higher than our estimate, but still within range, or we still think we should go ahead and recommend these. I talked to the road commissioners, and they're on board with this. The road commissioners are using Rebuild Illinois funds for their portion of the project, and the county's portion, this will be a 50-50 split, and the county's portion will come out of the county bridge fund.
Any questions? I was noticing on the sheet that shows all the different bids that we are, somewhat above the estimate. It looks like mostly because of the unit price on materials. So again, it's just a case where it's hard to keep up with what that number is going to be.
Unit price, and then the transportation of the materials to the project site with the fuel costs.
Okay. Anything else? All right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is 5A, 1B. We'll request approval of a bridge construction petition for joint culvert replacement number 1 and 2 in the White Oak Road District. Who wants to make that motion? Member Wachinski, second. Member Thompson. All right, Jerry.
So these are 2 culverts at the White Oak road commissioner had contacted us about to come out and look at. So we went out and looked at them and decided they need to be replaced. One of them had a hole in the road that was kind of causing the road to suck a little bit, and the other one was rusted out to where we just needed to replace them. So both of these are 50-50 projects that we will do for the township.
It looks like the one for location number 1, you're going from an 18-inch and a 24-inch to a 42-inch.
Yes, we're going to take the 2 out and combine them into one.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is 5A1C. Request approval of supplemental motor fuel tax resolution for White Oak Road, County Highway 70, Section 20-00182-03-RS. Who wants to make that motion? Member Klein, second member Bell. All right, Jerry?
So this is a supplemental motor fuel tax resolution, and a lot of times on these federal projects, we're using motor fuel tax funds for our design engineering and our construction engineering. And so last year, when we were doing the design, I think our whole office was working on this project, trying to get it ready for a letting, for the IDOT letting. And so, so our design cost was a little higher, or our hours were a little more on this project. And then also on the construction side, there's a little bit more involved because of the construction documentation that's required for these federal jobs. And so it's a new computer program that they implemented last year. And so basically, was kind of looking at over the expenses, and we had went over the additional amount of $35,000 that was on the original resolution. So this supplemental adds additional money in there to cover the additional engineering that we had on this.
Any questions? I just have a question on that project in general. So where you get up to 150 crosses College Avenue, there's there's traffic signals.
Yes.
Are we going to replace, or are we going to do anything with that signal system too?
At College Avenue?
Yeah.
Well, we worked with the city of Bloomington, and they, so it used to have detector loops at the intersection, and we worked with the city where they put everything to microwave. And so they did that before the project started.
Okay.
So that's
So
been completed.
Yeah, so there's nothing in the pavement now.
No,
Okay.
no, we took all that out. And then the town of Normals has a project there on College Avenue that they're going to be doing to match up to our White Oak Road project. So I think that's supposed to be done next year. So there may be some additional work there in the intersection, but we didn't include it as part of our work.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 5A2 is the project summaries. So Jerry, you can go ahead and lead us on those.
Sure. So the first one is the brand new bridge on Stringtown Road, and I do have a couple photos of it. So they're working on forming the deck. So this is a cast-in-place deck. So that's 8 inches thick, and so these are the beams that were set a few weeks ago, and so here's the beams, and so they're putting all these braces and brackets on the outside edge, and working on forming the deck up. And they have to they'll come in and they'll put what they call shear studs here on the deck. I think there's like 3,600 shear studs that'll go on this deck, and so that'll put that in there, and then there'll be additional rebar to form up, and then they got to form up a lot of the wings and everything. So they're looking to pour this deck maybe the middle of next week. is their schedule. So just a few more pictures here on that. So we're moving along on that project a little bit better now that we got the beams in. Beams are all set. So, so the next project on the list is the Meadows Road, going from Turkey Creek Bridge to Route 24. That's the reconstruction project. They have about 3 miles of the dirt work completed, and probably about 2 miles of the aggregate that's partially 2 lifts of the aggregate. They still have another lift to come in before they get the hot mix in there. So I think what the plan is they're looking to get about 3 miles of the rock completed, and then actually try to get the first couple layers of hot mix put on there before, try to get as much as they can done before harvest starts. So they're looking, I think, here at the end of August to maybe put some asphalt down. So any questions on that project? I don't have any pictures of that one.
I assume that obviously the school districts are aware of the construction and how they'll have to reroute the school buses and that.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So the next project then is the White Oak Road project that we kind of just discussed briefly. I do have a few pictures of that. So this is all completed. So this is looking towards Martin Luther King intersection. So they completed the striping last week. The only thing that we have left is a little bit of guardrail work that's going to take place next week. And so this is looking back at College Avenue. Something that we did different at the intersections is we actually grooved some of the striping in, and it's supposed to help it last longer. We haven't really done it on a lot of our roads. The state does quite a bit of it, and so we decided we did it in the intersections only. We didn't do it out on the main line, but because we use paint out on the main line, and then at the intersections we use a product called thermo paint, and it's supposed to last longer, and it's better. So we grooved it everywhere we had thermo, we grooved it, and that'll allow us to go back and paint it, and the paint will stay better. So yeah, this project turned out really good, and we did some patching work and then overlaid it, so it is it's all complete. Any questions on that project? So the next couple of projects is PJ Keller project. And this is part of the Blooming Grove Wind Farm from Route 66 to 2225. So that project's completed. We got painted there last week. We got to wait for reflectors to put in there for the pavement striping, but everything's completed on that project as well. And then the Shinoa Road project, that's going from County Highway 8 to the south side of Shinoa, and that was our full depth reclamation recycle project. And so they've completed all of that work. We did run into a couple soft spots that we're addressing right now, and so they got to come in and trim off about quarter to a half inch of the pavement, and basically to smooth it out, level everything out, and then we're going to come back in and put an oil and chip surface over the top of that. So that should be happening probably in the next couple weeks. And then, so some additional pictures that I have is from the Sapphire Sky wind farm. And so I have some pictures from the ground, and thanks to Member Thompson, we have some pictures from aerial photos that he took. So this is our County Highway 40 road, and to just kind of explain what we did here. So a lot of times these oil and chip roads have a major crown issue. And so what we did is we had McLean County Asphalt come in and pave like 8 feet and basically kind of take the crown out of the road. And it really helped us this time around because when those trucks and everything with that crown, they bounce up and down, and they start breaking the pavement off. And so we found out doing this ahead of time, we didn't have any issues with the concrete trucks or gravel trucks going across this road. So so that worked out well. So you kind of can see this is another off our road. This is a turning radii that they have to turn in the bigger components to certain, either to an intersection or to the turbine locations themselves. So this is just temporary pipe they have in the ditch here that'll come out once all the deliveries are made. So here's a picture of kind of the finished product of a township road. So you can see it's gravel. They came in and pulverized it. They added 2 to 3 inches of aggregate to it, and then they came in and with the skid loader, and then kind of shaped up the shoulders to hold the gravel in place. So, so we haven't really had too many issues out there. I think they ran into some soft spots, and so they've been addressing those as they've come across them. Basically digging them up, replacing them, and putting them back, and putting new material back in there. So there's kind of a couple other township roads. So here you can kind of see this is a partial tower here that's erected, and then kind of can see the big crane that probably put up theirs, and you kind of see barely down in here there's a blade sitting on the ground that'll end up being put on this. Just a couple more pictures of the road. So there's more of a close-up picture. You can kind of see a couple of the cranes in the background. It looks like this one here's got the nacelle put on top, and so they're just different stages. Here's kind of a picture from the road of the laydown yard. You can see there's the batch plant there. I can't remember how many acres. It's probably 15 acres of the laydown yard area, so it's good size. Here's just kind of some more pictures of the turbines that are erected. And then, so here's the aerial picture, so that you can kind of see the aerial picture of the laydown yard, and some of the turning radii that they have at the laydown yard, and some of the ones that are erected. Some additional pictures here, and you kind of can see their like crane path and their path for their cables and stuff where they go from tower to tower. And so you can see the turning radii in here, and then just yeah, like I said, there's a crane there setting. I think they have like 4 or 5 cranes out there, different sizes. So it's here you can see like the turning radii for like for a loop to bring in the components. So just kind of more of that. You can kind of see through the field where they probably came in through their for the boring of the cable to hook up to the transformer site. And then there's just kind of another picture of the loop around, and you can see all the components and everything just staged to be placed. And so there's the pedestal that's going on, and then they build a crane pad to set everything up. So, any questions on any of those projects?
Are they putting all the pipe under, or all the cabling in pipe? Because I noticed they've put a board under all the roads.
Just underneath the roads. I don't believe out in the fields it's in conduit.
It's like big stuff.
Yeah.
Is there, I can't remember, is there a permanent maintenance facility going to be where the laydown yard is, or are they going to have a different one somewhere?
They're building a different one on 54 south of Bellflower.
Okay.
I want to say about 2-3 miles.
Okay, all right. Any other questions on that? Well, thanks for those pictures, and Thank you very much. So we'll move on now to 5A2B, motor fuel tax allotment, and that's page 18.
So it's kind of giving you update on where we're at on the motor fuel tax allotments for 2022. They've been coming in fairly steady, even with the high fuel prices. We did have 1 month in there of March where it was a lot lower, but that was where the DNR took a lot of their fees. Usually they take fees like 3 times a year, but they did this all in 1 month, this go around. So everything's kind of running fairly steady. Usually the motor fuel tax is a couple of months behind, so it could be lower here in the next month or two as a reflection of the higher gas prices. But we're also in the summer months where people are traveling, so I don't expect a huge decrease by any means.
So the first column to the left there, budget allotment, that's more or less what we expect to get or what we use in our budget. And then if you look at the actual totals, then, in some instances, we're a little over, some a little less. And hopefully that'll all even out.
Right. Yeah, it looks like over on the right is the average allotment. We're right around 302,000, so pretty close to the budget number.
Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Okay, we'll move on to 5A2C, Illinois Department of Transportation Representatives. Jerry, if you want to introduce them or call them
Yeah,
out.
so I appreciate Scott Neihart and Avery Gore they're from Paris, so they made the early trip up this morning. So I appreciate them being here. And they're kind of just going to talk about some of the projects that's coming up in McLean County that may affect our county roads, and then maybe talk about how they program some of these projects as well.
Okay.
So you come on up here if you would.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. Is this on? Okay, good. All right. Me and electronics, sometimes. We're glad to be here with you folks today. We appreciate the invitation, Jerry. And, we have several exciting projects coming up in McLean County. We have not announced our 23 through 28 multi-year plan. So we're going to be restricted to talk about what is in the current published multi-year plan, which is in FY22 through FY27. So we're hoping that the new plan will be announced soon. We would have anticipated it would have been announced last month, but we're still waiting on that, and it's something that we in the district don't really have any control over. So Avery, first of all, in my role, I'm in charge of all the Phase 1 and Phase 2 engineering for the 7 counties in District 5. Responsible for land acquisition. Avery's a programmer. She worked for me, but she handles all the programming, system inventory. She has people that also work with the local regional planning commissions. We have 3 in District 5. Of course, McLean County Regional Planning Commission is one of them. I'm also responsible for all the studies and plans, utilities, and things of that nature. So I can have the broad overview. Avery does the programming. She sets the program with input from operations, construction, and then of course from our studies and plans staff, determining what's deliverable based on the constraints we have and based on the funds that Springfield gives us every year. So we have certain categories we have to fill. And I think maybe, Avery, if you could kind of talk about, if you want to turn your mic on there. It should work. You just hit the button. She can kind of give you an idea of how, we have a transportation asset management plan that's mandated by the federal government, by the FHWA, but it's also very useful, and she can give you some insight on that. and kind of explain how we prioritize projects, and I'll dig out our project map and can give you an idea of some of the things that is currently out there. And you can find most all of this information on IDOT's website, so you're welcome to go there and take a look around. And it's a little hard to find, but if you just type in multi-year plan, there's a search bar, and that'll give you all the information. District 5, it goes by district. District 5's a little over halfway down, because the first part is District 1, and that's a significant part of the state's program. So you have to go through quite a few projects to get there.
So historically, Department of Transportation was kind of on a worst first program where the roads that got the worst were always got the attention first, created a backlog. And so when we moved into this Transportation Asset Management Program, which is required federally for all DOTs to move into this, now we are required to meet certain targets within. We need to get things, try to do preservation when we can to extend the life, try to maintain them when we can, and kind of put that off the total rehabilitation and the reconstruction then should only be, a small portion of the program. And so in doing that, and the way that we just determine where things fall, every year, district staff as well as central office staff work with the Federal Highway to look at all the interstates that are within our district. So every year those roadways are assessed. We use what's called a condition rating survey, CRS rating. And so that picture that he showed with the beautiful new road that was black with the perfect stripes, that would be what would be considered a 9.0 on our system, and it goes down to 1 being the worst. And so we're required to keep certain percentage of every type of roadway, like our interstates. We need to keep about 90% of those need to be at a 5.5 or above. And then NHS routes are the next priority. And then state marked routes that aren't in NHS, and then of course our unmarked routes that aren't NHS are the bottom of that tier. And so we look at the interstates every single year, and then we look at the rest of the roadways then on every other year, and we're currently doing that right now. And so when I say that, the vehicle goes out and collects data, but it's more than just an image for us, and we drive every single route from our desk with a computer system that shows us, and it lights up, so it tells us this is 1.5 inches, this is 1/4 of an inch, this is 3/4, and so we can kind of assess what the distresses are. So each roadway is assessed based on what the current distresses are. And so like the one I told you, that was a 9. Anything that was new or within the last year or two should be close to that range. And then we see as they fall down, and we kind of know, we have a prediction of what the CRS should be, but then we also have the actual numbers that we do every other year. And so this is called our state of acceptable condition. So every road in the state is rated by this. And it gives us then a visual map, if you can imagine. And so our multi-year program, like he was talking about, the public, and it should be released soon, and it's completed for us, and it's adopted, and we're moving forward with it. But the projects that are in the annual year, which our annual year runs, as you know, from July to July, so the 23 projects, even though we're in 22, we're in 23 projects, that is set. And then the rest of the multi-year program, as far as the public sees, and as we're allowed to talk about it then, is within the program. We can't tell you this will be in 24, this will be in 25. We have an idea of where they're going to fall. Of course, we have to work on them ahead of time. But we're only really allowed to really give details about the stuff that's in the annual year, because those projects are going to be going to letting very soon. And so, but the way those are decided and determined and moved around is based on this then CRS rating. And then we're given certain percentages. We have to grab so many that we can do preservation on. And so we're looking for those. And that's why a lot of times you'll see the public and they'll say, this road is in terrible condition. Why in the world are they working on this one over here? It's not that bad yet. That's the intent, right, is to keep them, those ones that are in good condition. And if we notice that they're deteriorating faster than they should be, they're not a good candidate to preserve. Because if we already know they're deteriorating, there's no reason to preserve those. And so we balance that. And of course, it's just like our home budgets, right? It's a balancing act of what can we preserve, what has to be replaced. And so we're always doing that. And like he said, with input from our operations staff. And so numbers and formulas and models can only take you so far. We still have to rely on our people in operations and construction to say, hey, we're spending a lot of time out here. It may not be rated as bad, but this is costing us a lot of time and money. And so all of that is taken into account as we as we put projects within the program. And so, not to bog you down with all the details, but that's kind of how we assess and we determine. And then also we have to look at our staff, our design staff, our consultant partners. What can they handle? What can be delivered? Just because something needs done this year, it may have land ac issues or things that are going to push it back. And so that's always just this constant coordination and balancing act as far as that goes. Is there more that I should discuss, or is that a good overview?
I think it's a good overview.
Do you have questions?
Specific questions on that process before we start talking about projects? Or?
I mean, I could go on and on, but maybe that's more than what you want to know. So,
Sure, Jim.
Does each region get allocated, roughly the same amount of money, or are we District 5?
we're District 5. That's a complicated answer. And so what I get, of course, a portion of our money, some of our stuff is federal, some of it's state, some of it is like special. We have some things called a Rebuild Illinois. And so some projects are designated with those funds. Right now we have, the Biden, the IIJA money. And so certain things, we get certain allocations. And so when I look at a multi-year program, they give me an amount. And I have this much to spend each year, a total for the whole program. Our 22 program, I think, was $651 million in this district. We have been very fortunate to have some very big projects recently, the I-57-74 interchange. Those are bigger projects than our district typically sees. So we got a lot more money in those years and a lot more support than from OPMP to cover those even when they came in over what we had planned. And so it's different every year. As the outer years, I don't want to say it's fake money, but we get more money so you can bring more things into the program. And so, but the one that we're focused on the most is our annual program and getting as much as we can for that amount. And so just like your home budget, you may want to do all these things, but you have to decide what are our priorities, what has to be done. And again, trying to meet those goals of so much has to be preserved. And we look at the whole year. We rate in the year and I get the CRS rating. And then our model predicts what it probably will be over the life of that program. So I can see places where something might have been a preservation, but if I wait 2 years, it's going to be a rehabilitation. And if I wait 6 years, it's going to be a reconstruction. And so trying to balance and catch those things and put them in those years where the difference in a year sometimes can mean twice the cost for the project. And so that's always a balancing act. But we are given each, and central office decides the allocation, and it's based on a percentage of our roadways and how much interstates we have. And it's a complicated ratio, but we don't have any control over that at the district level. We know what we're going to get pretty much each year.
And we don't have any major river bridges like maybe
Correct.
District 4 does up in Peoria, so they have a pretty large budget up there for replacing some of those. The other thing to keep in mind, which I'm not sure if everybody's aware of, but the IDOT overall is in a bit of a penalty phase because of our bridge condition on NHS routes, I believe, is that correct, and interstates, not being in acceptable condition. So the federal government, the FHWA, sets aside so much money for us and says you have to use this much money out of your budget to address your bridges on your NHS routes because that's their priority. So we have to work within that type of parameter also.
And I guess I've been focusing more on how we assess the roadways because that's my job. We have a bridge and hydraulics engineer and an operations engineer that does the bridge and maintenance engineer. And the three of us get together once a year, but they do the pre-work before they come to me. And so bridges have to be within a certain, each part of the bridge has to be a 5 or above to be acceptable. And so they know what ones meet it, what ones need it, and they prioritize that before they give it to me. And then, of course, I have to use those same dollars then to put the bridges in there with the roadway work as well. And sometimes we do them in concert with the program, and sometimes the bridges are going to go in a different time than the roadway. It just depends how that all falls.
A lot of it depends on the bidding environment also. In the past, we've had kind of bad luck putting bridge projects in with major resurfacing projects because you end up with the staging on the bridges sometimes impacts the asphalt contractor's schedule. And in District 5, we have oftentimes our single bidder on our asphalt or HMA contracts. So, then that results in higher prices because they don't, even though they have a subcontractor doing the bridge, if they're ready to change stages and the bridge gets behind, that it ends up causing some, what would you call it? It causes issues, but also it keeps the prime contractor from having control over their schedule. And
Can
then
delay things.
it delays things, and it also adds a degree of uncertainty, which the contractor has to reflect in their bid as well. So oftentimes we'll try to keep them separate. We'll maybe do an interstate, then come back in. You may have noticed, like 39, 55 are both good examples recently. Then the past 6-8 years, we probably resurfaced most of that on the north side of Bloomington. But then now we're coming back in and catching bridge deck overlays and doing our structure repairs. And it's just, we found that to be more economical. While we'd like to just limit the traffic disruption to a small period of time, we don't find that to be feasible for the cost and for the taxpayers. So it's kind of a bit of a trade-off there. Any other questions about that?
Could we move on to current projects
Sure.
with the interstate, primarily that project down at Funk's Grove, Interstate 55, our county highway?
Yep.
Elaborate.
Well, it's obviously been under construction for a while. They did encounter some delays going early on in the project. The last email we had indicated that the barrier wall should be down at the end of the week, and they should be having some intermittent lane closures. Now, the status of the county highway being closed, I don't know that. I'm gonna have to get back. I can get back with Jerry on that. I'll check with our construction personnel.
When was that project to have been completed? When was it initiated? When was it to be completed?
Let me look, see if I have any information on my spreadsheet, because we do get updates on that, and I don't know that I have let me see if I can search that and find that here for you. Okay. Yeah, the start date was 4/12/21, and the completion date that they had in here initially was 11/24/21. So we are significantly behind. Let's see, stage 2 deck pour was done. Stark will continue to complete the formed PCC repair. Anticipate the barrier wall removal would be probably this week. Diamond grinding and deck seal will continue depending upon the weather. I'm not sure what work is causing the county highway to be closed. I don't know if that's a formed concrete repair, if that's underneath, or if that's something else. That's all the information I have for you.
Okay. Well, it's over a year behind. And there's been,
Not quite a year, but yes.
okay.
It's a season
It-
behind.
yeah,
It's not,
yeah.
it should have been done last season, yeah. They ran into
Yeah.
some issues early on, for sure.
Yeah. I guess my biggest concern is there's been a lot of fatalities on the interstate because of that. And I take that serious. It's not my interstate,
Yep.
but 2, 3, 4 deaths is significant.
It is.
And if it would have been an IDOT employee killed, we've had them, workers, it would have really gotten some people's attention.
It
I don't
gets,
think that's true.
it gets our attention.
Every single death.
Yeah, and I'm sure our
There have
construction
been.
personnel look into it and try to see what would have caused it and if there's anything they can do to improve the work zone while it's out in construction. You know, I can't explain the delays. I know that initially they had trouble getting started because of building the crossover, which was required for the project. They ended up having some very wet soil conditions, which were not anticipated. So it took them a very long time to get the dirt dry enough to actually build the crossovers on it. And then that threw them behind from the get-go, from the very beginning of the project.
Yeah. Well, I'm around there a lot. I farm around there. The traffic backs up. It's
Yep.
in a terrible location on a curve. People aren't paying attention on the interstate. They are doing everything they can. It's like a perfect storm every now and then, and people get hurt, people get killed. And just wanted you to be aware of that
Yep.
it's significant because it's kind of in my backyard.
We do see the crash reports that come through every fatality in our district. Our plans and operations engineer sends them to us to look over, and so we're aware of what's happening out there. We do depend on our construction personnel to make adjustments in the work zone where it's deemed necessary, and we do pay for those changes where we need to.
And I would just add, I mean, obviously, we take every fatality seriously. There shouldn't be any. And so 2 or 4, 1, we would take that seriously. But this specific project, I can tell you, we have, we call it a project managers meeting once a month, and it includes personnel from operations, from construction, our designers, Scott and myself. And it's immediately discussed. Were there things that we could do? What can we do in the future? I mean, it's always reviewed. Interstate construction traffic is always a concern, worrying about the queues. And so we do take it seriously and we do review it. And it isn't just, I mean, we want our workers to be safe. We want the traveling public to be safe. So I just want to make sure that, I mean, it's already been discussed and it will be continued to be. And
Okay.
and
Thank you.
as
I'm
far
not
as-
shooting the messenger. And I
no.
know there's problems, unexpected problems that happen when you're working on a bridge and that, and we have to re-engineer. But it's behind. It's behind schedule. And usually when they have an end date, they have fines and penalties.
And I don't know the details of this specific contract, but that is true.
Correct.
But there are times when, if there's a reasonable delay of a controlling item, they aren't charged those fines. And so I don't know the details of this specific project. I know the entire environment right now of even just trying to get materials, trying to make sure they have enough workers. I mean, it's complicated for everyone, as
understand.
I'm sure you are aware.
I do understand. I just want to know when the project's going to be done. Start and done. Done.
Yeah, done, I'm not sure, but they should have the barrier walls off this week, according to the email you got from Ken right at the beginning of the meeting. So they should have at least the traffic back open. There'll be some intermittent lane closures to do some work out there, but it won't be with the barrier wall.
Thank you for everything you do.
I have a question.
Okay?
I thought, coming back into Bloomington yesterday from Springfield, that they had declared evacuation on the other side of the road that you're talking about. Semis were all backed up. Nothing was moving, and I was scared that something bad was going to happen, because as you come down that way, going to Funk's Grove, the traffic was just speeding. And the workers were literally trying to get their work done and having to jump back as the cars were going by them. So if this is off schedule, can we get a list of fines or penalties from you every day? That I want to know everything that's been done so we could hurry the work up. Winter is coming soon. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, I will check with our construction personnel and see if that information is available. And I will get with Jerry, make him my point of contact. Other questions?
I think you can go ahead and start your update on the projects.
Okay. We do have some pretty major projects that will go through Bloomington and through Normal. I'll start with those. I know this is a county meeting, but that is within your county. So we are nearing the completion of the Route 9 project, which runs from roughly I-74 to Royal Point Road. We're getting near the phase 1 on that. We had our public information meeting last month, our final public meeting. We are trying to wrap some things up. We ran into some delays for cultural resources. We were able to clear the cultural resources on that, so we're down to accepting the final comments on that, and we should have the report done. We've started some preliminary plat work for some of the land acquisition that'll be required for the sidewalks and for the traffic signals and for the ADA improvements. And the next step for us will be, once we complete and get an approved phase 1 report, we can start on our phase 2 to get some design started. We're going to break that up into 5 separate contracts, so it'll be somewhat affordable. So we're hoping that those are all, except for one, I believe, is in our multi-year plan currently. One of those does not currently show up in our multi-year plan. Work continues on phase one for the US 51 study through Bloomington and Normal, which ties in with the Main Street corridor that was looked at by the McLean County Regional Planning Commission. That is still progressing. We've met with, I believe, Bloomington and Normal, where the engineering staff. And the next phase, we're going to reach out to the stakeholders along the route, particularly the universities, Connect Transit, and some other groups to gather input, let them know the status, and let them ask questions about the project. So that is still on target. We have a consultant working on US 150 from Oakland, which is Morrissey is Morrissey US 150 from Oakland to Veterans Parkway. We're working with the city of Bloomington on that to come up with some pedestrian and bicycle accommodations where we can, and try to work something out that works for everybody, for all users. Let's see. That's pretty much the in-town work. We have quite a few projects. I'm not sure how much information you need. We have US 24 from Chenoa to the, I believe that'd be the Livingston County line. Has a resurfacing project. We have a bridge replacement also by Chenoa. We have, let's see, just west of 55 on 24, we have another bridge replacement that's upcoming. We have a bridge deck overlay near Lexington. We have a bridge deck overlay at, looks like 150 and 74. We are working, there's an interstate resurfacing project in the multi-year program from Carlock to roughly the 74-55 split northwest of Bloomington. We have a resurfacing project on Illinois 9 from the county line to the Illinois 122, Illinois 9 intersection. We have a resurfacing project on Illinois 9 from 122 on into roughly I-74. I'm just trying to hit the highlights. Illinois 122, I think that one was already let 70778, because that should have been FY22 project. We are working on a piece of Veterans Parkway from Clearwater to Old Route 66. That's a 3P resurfacing with ADA improvements, and that's coming up very soon. We're actively working on that. We have some bridge deck overlays around Towanda. We have another piece of Route 9 from 165 over to roughly Aerosmith Road, that area. Another resurfacing project, and then another one on Route 9 that would follow that from Aerosmith Road to the county line, east to the county line. Got a piece of 165 from Colfax to the county line. Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. I'm looking down. You'll have to
That's
holler
okay.
at me.
The two you're referring to on the east side of the county, I'm just, the dates on those,
Which ones?
that might be close to home.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I'm a little hard.
The 165 to basically the county line, there's two projects you mentioned, resurfacing projects.
Okay, yeah, 165. Let's see, that is a 3P resurfacing project, and that goes from Colfax to the county line. Is that the one you're interested in?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, actually, a question about that, because 160, you said 165 to Colfax Road, 3200?
It's on 165 from Colfax
Oh, okay.
to the county
165,
line.
actually 160, okay, that answers my question, thank you.
So it's it looks like it's a bit of a ways out based on what I have here, so we probably haven't done a whole lot with that at this point. But it'd be a 3P resurfacing project.
Dates on those, you say a ways out, are we talking?
I
like-
can't really give you those because we can only give you,
Not next month, though, right?
yeah. So it's a few years away, let's just say that.
Few
okay?
years.
We're, yeah. Yeah.
Were you also asking Route 9 from Aerosmith to the county line?
Yes.
And that would be currently in the same year, so it's still a fair piece out. It's a few years away. But it'll be a 3P resurfacing project, which was,
It's pretty bad shape.
oh, no, I'm sorry. That's actually a 3R project. I apologize. The Route 9 projects is what we call a 3R, which will look at safety, we'll look at side roads, drainage, shoulders, and things of that nature. It could be a project which involves some right-of-way acquisition, and it's more of a significant type, longer-term improvement.
But we're still like 5 years away.
Could be, yeah, yeah, but it's out there,
It's bad.
yeah,
Come ride with me in a truck. It's bad.
no, I know, yeah. Let's see, moving,
Can I ask something real quick, just
Sure.
dealing with that? So, so you also talked about maintenance or whatever, so, you know, when does the truck with the hot mix go out there and patch those holes? Is that again something that your engineers or your staff goes out and says, we need to do some work on these roads?
yeah, that comes from our operations bureau, and then they have field engineers. They have 2 field engineers, and then they have operations supervisors in each area, and they make the determinations on how they're going to use the budget that's assigned to them to patch the roads based on condition, complaints, and issues that pop up too. There's also some contract maintenance funding occasionally we use for patching and things. That's a state-only fund that gets issued each year. There's a certain amount set, and our operations staff basically sets where they want the work done, and then our studies and plans staff deliver those projects for actual letting, but they are state-funded.
The ones that I more handle are the preservation. If I can catch it when it needs, you know, a seal, some of the crack and joint seal that will hold it longer. If I can get to something that maybe just needs, you know, a couple inches of resurfacing before it gets really bad, the ones that you're talking about are at a place where they have to be rehabilitated or reconstructed. So they require design and more money, and yeah. And so when we say in the outer years, like I said, when we release our program, the projects that are in the annual year, you'll know.
They'll
The
be in
rest
the
of them are
red.
within that 5-year window, and we can't comment on where they're at, other than, like I said, they're in the outer years, so you can just not expect them within the next year or two.
Next
It's
fiscal year,
basically,
yeah.
And sometimes it's not, again, necessarily, you know, it's a rough road or whatever, but if it's a case where the pavement's broken off on the edge or it's a major pothole, then it's a safety issue.
And then
Right.
that's when our operations staff handle that with, like we said, with they do maintenance with their crew, or if we can put something that's a contract maintenance project that we can handle through us, but it comes with their contract maintenance fund that goes in and does that. And again, I get input from them because they're having to do that a lot. And we need to move something up because of their, you know, like I said, models and numbers can only take you so far, and then you have to talk to that staff and kind of see if we can move things up when we can.
Have eyes in the field, you
So.
know. And I try, when I come up for the McLean County Policy Meeting, I try to drive some of our roads up here when I'm in the area to look at it. And if there's ever anything that needs to be looked at, you have some concerns on, you know, you just need to let me know. And I'll be glad to take a look at it too in the field. It's not a problem.
Could you share with me how many counties you cover and how many miles of road that you are responsible? If just, it sounds like a lot.
7 counties.
7 counties.
We have Vermilion, Champaign, McLean, Edgar, Douglas, Payette, and DeWitt. And I don't know how many, I don't know the total.
District
number.
5 has 1,296 miles of highways, 681 bridges, 8.7 million miles of travel daily. And our fiscal year 22 through 27 was $651 million to encompass all of that. Yeah.
So that's our responsibility.
And this is
we're a small-
available
and we're a
on the
small
website if you
district.
wanted that. Yeah.
Okay, we're a small county, district county-wise. That happened when the districts were realigned. Some of you may or may not be aware of that, but I think you used to be under District 3 out of Ottawa, if I remember correctly. And at some point in time, they decided to reshuffle the district counties. And at one time, we had more counties. We didn't have McLean, but we had Macon, Coles, Clark, and Cumberland. I think that's who we lost. So they've just moved some things around to line up with the interstates, I believe, is what happened. That's 10 years ago, maybe.
And
somewhere
I
in
think
that
we have
neighborhood.
the second highest number of interstates within
Yeah,
our
we
district,
do,
within the state.
Strangely, yeah. We
Yeah,
have some
even though we're
major
at, you know,
interstates. So,
Yeah.
would you like for me to continue on with projects? Are you okay? Or, I'm sorry, continue? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. The next, moving kind of southwest of Bloomington, we do have 2 resurfacing projects on I-55 coming up. I know we are actively engineering the south section, which would go from the McLean County line northeast up to around Funks Grove. I know engineering's progressing on that. We are working on 136. I believe we had a project led on that from McLean to Hayworth. From Hayworth then on over to 150 is on our radar also for an upcoming project. We have three structures with new decks on I-74, which would be southeast of Bloomington. One of them's at Downs. I know that's a terrible looking deck, but it's on our radar to get done. We're aware of it. And we're going to do three bridges to get in that area so we can kind of bundle our contracts, try to get a better unit prices on them. We do have a resurfacing project on US 150 from Leroy down to the county line. We have a piece here on, let's see, 136 from 54 to the county line also. What have I forgotten? Anything, did I miss anything? I think I've covered most of
McLean
them.
County.
And you're doing that in 6 other counties also.
Yes. Yeah, I would encourage you, though, if you're at all interested, to look at the multi-year plan. And there'll be an announcement when the new plan comes out for 23 to 28. We're hoping it's soon. And I would encourage you to take a look at that. I know it's not the easiest thing to navigate our website, but if you do have problems, Jerry has my contact information. I mean, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll try to help you, either get you a link to the plan or anything you need. That's what I'm here for. Do you have other questions?
Okay, anybody got any questions? Member Thompson?
Route 54, Bellflower to Gibson City.
Okay, I'm looking for it here. I don't have that in our multi-year plan.
I don't, yeah. Let's see it. But, and again, I kind of got distracted when I was explaining earlier, but, so when we get all the CRS ratings and we get that data, we of course get it in a spreadsheet that can be sorted, but we also get GIS, we get it graphically. And one of the very first things we do each year is we take the map of our multi-year program, everything that's already included, and then we overlay then that state of acceptable conditions, and we look, and anything that, of course, is red, if it isn't programmed, those are priority things they have to be looked at. But we look at everything that isn't already programmed, and then we assess its condition, and that's how we determine what's going to be brought in then to the next year, of course, likely to the outer years, but.
I'm assuming there are travel counts or however you state that is a part of that calculation, right?
Correct, yep.
Got a really bad road and there's only 2 people driving it, you probably don't get a high
Correct.
priority.
And like I told you, well, there's a hierarchy of our preference. So interstates are always priority. Our NHS state marked routes then are next. And then we have some, our unmarked non-NHS and then our unmarked routes. And so, I don't know if I got that quite, but the interstates are priority, NHS routes next.
How do they,
And it goes down from there, so.
how are they collecting that data? I'm just curious if they still do how do you collect that data?
They drive the vans with and
Are
then
you
the
talking about
traffic
the
counts,
traffic
that's
data?
what.
Traffic
Mark-
counts, yeah. I didn't
traffic
know if there was
counts.
some new way they count, with satellites counting
Do we have a
cars
new way
or.
to count? I don't know. Mark handles
No,
the-
we do, I think we do use consultants now, but we usually just use the traffic counters that are taped down, and they collect the data, and then our people process it.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's
The
it's still done that
technology
way.
changed
One
that
interesting thing, I guess, I find interesting, but for our intersection movements, if say we're having a project that involves intersection, we want to look at the turning movements, know how many cars are turning left, how many are turning right. We have something called MyoVision, which we put up a counter, which is a camera, and we collect counts from that, and that's sent off to another firm, and then the firm gives us actual splits. Back in the old days, we used to have somebody sit at an intersection with literally a board, a piece of plywood on it that had counters where they would watch the cars go by and click how many cars. And unfortunately, that wasn't very accurate, especially when oftentimes we'd use some winter assignment construction personnel that maybe weren't busy out there. And, on some intersections, that's not too bad. That'll work. But some of them, they're just going, oh my gosh, there's just cars everywhere. And you just start clicking, and you don't know really what you have. And we, several years ago, when we first started using MyoVision, we were kind of wondering how the accuracy compared. And we found that our manual counts were way off on a lot of those. So MyoVision has been a good product for us. It's been helpful for our uses.
So, the townships and the counties all have road use agreements with wind farms.
Okay.
Did the state go through that process?
The state issues highway permits for the improvements on our right-of-way. So there's not really an agreement, but they do have permits, and of course, they have to obtain permits for their oversized load moves, which comes out of Springfield, not through the district. But if there's an improvement to an intersection, say a temporary improvement to get a piece of equipment around, that is processed through our operations staff, through our permit staff.
And I guess what I was more referring to, we get a per tower payment, for X amount of towers times $17,000 that we can use for improvements. State doesn't have anything
We
like that.
do not, no.
Okay.
We do not. And I don't believe the oversized, overweight permits, I hate to say, I don't believe those cost either. It's just a matter of going through and obtaining them and then getting the proper routing in case you have a bridge or something that's maybe load rated or has some kind of a rating on it, or, we have width restrictions for our projects, but no, we don't have anything. Permits are still free. Do we have other questions?
Any questions? Well, thanks for coming.
No
As
problem.
long as I've been on this board, I don't believe we've actually had a rep from I.com, so it's a good treat for us. And I think we all agree that, that IDOT has the same problems that the county and the townships have sometimes with, getting product and getting, issues with weather and everything else, and getting complaints from citizens.
Yeah.
And we all have to deal with them the best we can. So
Sure.
again, we appreciate you coming.
One thing before we do go, I do want to say that at least our District 5 staff, we do want to be good partners with the local agencies, with the county and, the city, and we try not to put out projects that are going to cause you a great deal of harm. Funks Grove has caused you some harm. I get that. That was not our intent. It was not our intent, but when things get out to the field, they get a little bit out of our control. So, and a shout out to Jerry. I've really enjoyed working with Jerry. He's very professional. You guys have a good one here. I'm sure you know that. But he's, we've been able to work together on a lot of things and have good discussions, very frank, open discussions, and I appreciate that. So.
Okay, thanks for coming, and have a safe trip back.
All right, thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, on with our agenda then. I'm going to skip the D other till the end of the meeting, so we'll go to 5B1A, request by Ronald Ropp for a waiver of preliminary plan requirements and approval of a one-lot subdivision final plot for the Mardi Ropp subdivision in case S2206. I would entertain that motion. Member Thompson, second. Member Klein. All right, Mr. Dick, you want to take care of that?
Yeah, yes, this is a 1.8 acre set aside that Mr. Ropp wants to set aside for his son Marty Ropp to build a house on. And he's allowed to build a house on it as the son of a farm owner. And that's going to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting tonight for a recommendation that you'll find in your county board packet on the 11th as well. So this has been reviewed by the highway and the health departments, and they're both okay with it. The applicant has got a plat access certificate from the Dry Grove Township Road Commissioner, and staff recommends approval. And Mr. Ronald Ropp is here if you have any questions of him.
Does any member have any questions? Member Rogal?
So what's the difference between this and what they're hearing tonight? Anything?
There are two things that are involved when a person or somebody wants to develop their property. One has to do with the zoning, which is the use that they're allowed to put on the property. And the other has to do with the division of the land so that it can be conveyed. So this part of the process is so that the property can be divided and conveyed. The meeting tonight has to do with being allowed to put a house on it.
Okay. The only question I have, it's 1.8 acres. Is this unique? Is it normally more than that, or is that pretty much normal?
The minimum requirement in the ag district for a lot is 1 acre, and the minimum lot width is 200 feet. And it is kind of a unique subdivision. If you see how it's angled, it was attached to your staff report. So, and it kind of has to do with how the property drains, why they put it in this configuration. But as far as we're concerned, it meets our requirements.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm not clear
I'm
on,
sorry.
is this a curve in a road that goes around where it looks like Northtown? Are there any other houses in that area, or,
There's not a house adjacent to this property.
okay, and is this a curve in the map?
No, that's just the way the farm drains. There's a drain tile or a waterway that goes in that direction, and that's why they put it in that configuration. But the road is Northtown Road extended on the south side of the property. And if you go over about 1,000 feet to the east, you'll run into Rop Road. And if you look at the plat map that's attached to this thing, you can see where this is in the county. But there's no residences real
Okay.
close to it.
So actually, he's almost at the T, 1,000 feet, and there's going to be looks like a long driveway, so the house is not literally sitting on Northtown Road. Is that correct?
Well, it'll be pretty close to it.
So that person is going to have to put their signal lights on and turn into a driveway where there is a lot of traffic. Is that
There's
correct?
not hardly any traffic there. It's a real small road. It's a township road, oil and chip, about 18 feet wide.
And it's a two-lane road, right?
Yes.
I think in my mind, when you think of Northtown Road, I envision right on the north part of Normal, and that is a busier road, but this is on farther to the west.
Yeah, this is west of Rop Road, and there's a decent amount of traffic all the way from Rop Road to US 51. But in this area, there's little or no traffic.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that we are growing so fast, things will change, and that there will be other things built out there. So once this gets done, is he grandfathered in that he's not going to put another house and another house next to that and chip away at the farmland that's there?
The only reason he was allowed to build a house there is because there is a special privilege in the zoning ordinance to allow a son of a farm owner. If he was anybody but a son of the farm owner or a daughter of the farm owner, he wouldn't have been able to put a house there. And he couldn't, the farm owner couldn't put another house on that property. This is the only way that they would have been allowed to do it. Because the county has been somewhat restrictive to allow non-farm residences in the ag district since February of 1974. And there are certain ways that people are allowed to do that, and this is one of the ways that the county board allowed additional residences to be built. Another one has to do if he was actually a farmer, then he farmed a lot of land in the area. There's a special provision for that too, but otherwise, it's quite restrictive.
Any other questions? Member Thompson?
Does Marty farm?
Pardon?
Does Marty farm?
No. He raises bulls.
He does.
But he doesn't,
That's part of agriculture, just FYI.
but he owns them, but he doesn't really keep them on this, he's not gonna keep them on this property. Mr. Ron Ropp here wants to address
Yeah.
the committee.
Is it okay with the board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Marty is my son, and this property has been in the family for almost 150 years now. He owns 20 acres north of our land on Rop Road, but it's not sufficient enough acreage to put his house. So he is able to put a house on the southwest corner of our property. Mardi owns and operates Allied Genetic Resources, which has over 100 cattlemen all across the country, with which he runs bull sales, runs genetic work, and has some 6 employees. I think he runs some 25, 30 sales a year, and is very, very active. He's also active in McLean County. He started the My Ag program, which maybe some of you know was auctioning off for 4-H'ers who otherwise can't make any money on premiums at the fair. I think this is 6th or 7th year that he's headed up that organization, with some $30,000 to $40,000 given to 4-H'ers. He's very interested, living in the ground floor of our barn house. And while I'm speaking of barn houses, let me give a plug that we now have 53 centennial barns in McLean County identified, history on them. Anybody who, if you know of centennial barns, give us a call, Barn Keepers, or see our booth out at the county fair.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Well, I think we are ready to vote then. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is 5B2, other. Do we have anything other? All right. Administrator Taylor, do you have anything?
I do not, sir.
All right. So does any other member have anything to discuss before we adjourn? Okay, looks good. Thank you all for coming. We are adjourned.